Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We'll start this off with some introductions. My name is Bob. My coworkers will introduce themselves.
I'm Ellie.
I'm Kenan.
And we are all software engineers on the community cloud. So today we are going to be talking a bit about how to deliver a consistent UI platform experience across Lex and communities. So I'm going to start off by talking a bit about a routing API that we've added to communities in summer 19. And then Ellie and Kenan will talk a bit about some enhancements they've made to records in communities. There'll be some demos and time for Q&A afterward. You've probably seen this slide a million times. This is basically just saying don't make any business purchasing decisions based on what you see in this presentation, even though I'll add that most of what you see here is already live in summer 19. All right, starting off, unified routing, Lightning navigation. So this is a routing API that we're bringing into communities as a part of the summer 19 release. This is a public routing API that was introduced in summer 18. It essentially unified all navigation events into a single API. This API was centered around page references. Page reference is essentially an object literal that describes your page. And it's a way to structure your URL into a JavaScript object. We've got an example here. You can see this page reference has three parts, type, attributes, and a state. So a type describes the API name of your page. Here we have a standard record page. You can see there's a case record on your page. There's attributes, which is required data that components on your page need in order to render incorrectly. You can see the record ID. The component needs that to look up the correct data for this specific case to load in. There's an action name as well. This is like how the component should look when it renders in. It's in a view mode. There's like edit modes and stuff like that. And lastly, there's the state. This is optional data that components can use to render in non-standard ways. So for example, if you pass in this custom filter, the component can use that to render in a way that maybe it wouldn't if that custom filter wasn't present. You can see that's stored in the query parameters of your URL. So this allows for components to support deep linking. Yeah. So the three features of the Lightning Navigation API that we're bringing into communities are navigate, generate URL, and an @wire, which gives you your current page reference. So navigate is essentially you pass in a page reference, and it will take you to the page that's described by that page reference. This allows you can also use a replace argument to manipulate browser history. There's generate URL. This will generate the URL for the page that's described by your page reference. This is really great for generating links. You no longer have to hard code them. You can just call this function, and it will give you the correct URL in Lex and in communities. Lastly, there's an @wire. So this returns the page reference that describes the page that your component's currently on. And this is what I was talking about earlier with deep linking. You can no longer have to parse your URL to get this information. You can just use this @wire and your LWC components to pull in the current page reference. You can use state to then manipulate how your component should render. So there's a couple differences between how this API works in Lex versus communities, mostly because the two platforms are different. For example, communities is a public-facing application, so we care a lot about SEO, and URL structure is pretty important for that. So oftentimes you'll see that routes, they aren't one-to-one across Lex and communities, so page references don't always match up perfectly. Another point about communities being public-facing, we need some way to log in guest users. So we've added a COM login page that you can use to navigate your users to your login app using the action name login. And you can log them out also with the action name logout. Another difference between Lex and communities is that communities are a lot more customizable because you're trying to build a branded experience for your customers. So you can pretty much drag and drop components anywhere. There's no real restrictions where your components can go. So we've decided to change. There's a standard name page that Lex uses. We've decided to use COM name page because of the differences in how you can structure those pages. And this, another fact that you can drag and drop components everywhere means that components aren't really URL addressable because there's no way to guarantee that this page will have this component in the community because you can delete, drag, drop, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to show a quick demo of the API working in Lex and also in communities. So this is a LWC component that I wrote. So basically consuming the Lightning Navigation API. So if you press generate URL, you see the URL gets pasted right there. You can see it's the same as what's in the URL bar. This page state, you can update that. You can see a new state gets added into the query parameters. You can also see it present in the page reference, the current page reference object. And you can see I'm modifying the page state part of the component using the state that it has been grabbed in. And you generate the URL one more time. You can see now it's present in the URL. So that's it working in Lex. That's great. Now here it is in communities, doing the exact same thing. We can generate the URL. Pulls in the relative URL of your community. You can update the state. It'll push that state into your query parameters. It's in your page reference. Generate the URL one more time. And yeah, there it is in your URL. So we have used this API internally for some of our components to help support deep linking. One example is the record list component. So you can see switching the list view. You can see the filter ID gets put into the query parameters. You press back, and it will return you to whatever list view you were previously on. So that makes it easier to sort of use back forward buttons to walk through whatever list views you were on. Also, drilling into a record, clicking back will take you back to the list view that you were previously on, so you don't have to change your list views over and over again. All right, so that's it for the Lightning navigation. I don't know if you've noticed, but there were a couple additions to that record list that we haven't had in communities that Ellie and Kenan are now going to talk about.
Hello. Hey, everyone. So how many people here actually use communities and develop on communities? All right, cool. That's a good number. So in the past couple releases, we've been making a lot of progress on just trying to allow more customization and really add a lot more features to our records and stuff. So one of the first things we did was we added Pinless Support. So what is Pinless? It basically allows a user to pin a list view, and you can see the pin icon up there. And when this happens, then every single time the user revisits that page, they're going to hit that list view. So basically, it allows the user to set a default list view. And that's pretty cool. The next thing we've done is we've added custom mass actions. So let's say we have a support agent that wants to update a bunch of different items, and you can update up to 100 items. You can create a custom logic that will update all of these items together. And you can set that up through the Lightning Experience platform. And finally, we're trying and we're continuing to allow as much customization as possible on the record list component. And we've added, so let's say the admin doesn't want their users to configure these different items. They can turn them off in the builder. And then we're continuing to improve on this and add even more customization onto the record list component. So that's all cool and all, but let's see this live in action. So I'll give it over to Ali.
Alrighty. So, so let me introduce you to our community. This is Crimp Collective, which is a co-op specializing in all things climbing. Today we'll follow Ashima, who's our service agent supporting the customers in this community. So every day, the first thing Ashima does is she goes to check out the cases in her backlog. For this, she has a custom list view that has that's customized with the fields and filters she needs for her workflow. With Pinless, she can select this list as the default for her cases. And so Ashima and her colleagues can decide for themselves what information is most important for them and have it easily accessible. Today, Ashima's kind of noticed that there's a lot of cases that have to do with promo codes not working on the online store. So she does a quick search to narrow down the cases and investigates the issue. She finds that there's already been a bug logged internally, and a team is actively working on the fix. So previously, she would have had to drill into each of these records and update them with her findings. But with Mass Actions, she can modify multiple records directly from the list view. So here she has a custom form with just the field she needs to triage cases. So she fills it out and saves. Additionally, she goes and she adds a public comment. So to tell the customers to acknowledge the issue to the customers and tell them that a fix is being worked on. All right. And then if we drill into one of the records, we can see that the details have been updated and the case has been related to, the comment has been related to the case. So this is just a couple examples of how Mass Actions can help you streamline your workflow. So if we hop over to the builder, we'll quickly just show that some of the features we showed are configurable. So you can vary and optimize your list view based on your users or different audiences. And if you're not sure what audiences are, there's actually going to be a talk on that later on this morning. So hopping back to the slides. Yeah, so some of these features you might already be aware of or are using in your community. It's part of like a greater initiative to bring the platforms closer together and to while exposing additional configurability in communities. So basically we hope that you can start using Lightning navigation across platforms, especially in your new Lightning Web Components. And also start hopping on the new features we add as we roll them out. Yep, that's all I got.
Before we jump into the Q&A, we have one more session for Community Cloud. Recommend.
Yeah, that's the one on audience.
And supposedly there's going to be recordings for everything, so check out all of our other Community Cloud sessions. Did anyone go to the LWC one that I was in? All right, couple people. Cool. It's good to see. All right. So, let's jump into Q&A. Any questions? Give us some hard questions. Come on. Challenge us. Calendar events? No. She's asking about calendar events. Do we have any calendar events?
Does she want the calendar events, like the calendar, like? Yeah, there's an out-of-the-box component that's a calendar. You can drag it in from the component palette.
Because I know that when trying to have my community view events, I have to go to Salesforce Classic to invite those.
Do we want?
No, I was just wondering if like currently in my community, in order for my partner users to see various events, we have to go back into Salesforce Classic to enable, to select and invite those users to have visibility for the events. I was just wondering if there was any kind of enhancements and for visibility for various calendar events that you want to display to your community.
I see. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I can get your contact information and follow up on that.
I'm part of the Community Cloud too. There is a calendar component that Ellie was talking about, and on that you can have calendars, events, tasks, etc. And so, as an end user, once that component is dragged onto the builder, you can decide what you want to surface. So that's a pretty good way of leveraging calendars, and similar to the calendar feature in internal Lightning as well. So that's a good place to start. Okay.
I was wondering, is there any, or are there any plans to enable audience visibility settings on the global search? Either that or visibility settings on what they're able to search in the global search in the community?
For what they're able to search, I'm not aware of that. But for switching out the search itself, you can use themes. I think that's, yeah.
Okay, I was wondering if, like, the same way you can set audience visibility settings on different components in the community, if the global search was going to become part of that to be able to set audience visibility.
So the
Right now,
global
yeah,
source search, the out of the box one, is tied to the theme, and so to change that, you can create different themes.
Okay.
But if you create your own search component and put it elsewhere and not tied to your theme, yeah, that you can just
Okay.
vary by audience.
Thank you.
Hi. We have a use case where we created a list button, custom list button with a VF page override, and it's not working in community. So with the changes that you just told, will it work in summer 19?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
But that is something we're looking into.
Okay. Thank you.
So you talk about the pinning. Pinning is not working for the record list in the record list component.
But I can't hear.
In the record list component, we can use the list views, right? There we had a problem recently that when the customer pinned it, it was showing the same list view for all the record lists. So once you pin a list view, let's say I have my cases, my open cases, my closed cases, 3 record lists which are using 3 different list views, and I pin one of them, it is actually pinning all, and any tab I go, it shows me the same list view, same records.
In your in the community builder, is the what's the configure? Are you is the list view? Sorry, is the default list view in your navigation? Is it configured to default, or did you already configure it to a specific list view?
Now we have tabs created, and on the tab we have record lists, which
Right.
is using the list views. But once you enable this automatically pinning, any list view you pin it, it is showing same list view in all the record lists in any page. So I think the problem is you are combining record lists with the list views. So anything happening to the list views, it is impacting record list as well.
Yeah, I don't really have a mic, but I can talk loudly. Basically, yeah, so if you're using multiple... you're saying you're using multiple record lists? Yeah, so how Pinless actually works is it does it by entity or by object. So if you pin it on one record list component with that, like let's say you're on cases and you use that and you pin it, then if you have another record list component elsewhere on the page, if it will show up the same pin list view. Yeah, that's expected behavior currently, but yeah, we might look into maybe making it more for, I guess you could have different pinned lists for different record list components.
currently our partner community users are setting tasks for themselves with reminders, and those reminders are internal to the community. Is there a way that they can get those notifications by email or other external notices?
I'm not familiar with notifications or reminders, but yeah, we can take your name and follow up with that.
Yeah, so I think we're out of time, but if you
Oh,
have
they
more
can-
questions, we'll be
yeah.
around and feel free to talk to us and let us know your comments and everything. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.